Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Season 14, Story 6, The Talons of Weng-Chiang. So, and by the way, if my eye line isn't so straight, it's because I think I'm looking at the camera, but I'm also looking at the screen on the phone, so apologies for that. But anyway, The Talons of Weng-Chiang, the final story of Doctor Who Season 14. It's also the last story to be produced by Philip Hinchcliffe. And yeah, it'll be a shame to see him go, because this is probably one of the best eras of... No, this is definitely one of the best eras of the show. Quite a lot, lots of great stories, loads of 10 out of 10s to be precise, especially from the last season. And yeah, it's just been all around brilliant. I mean, there's been a few stories I haven't been so keen on. One extremely bad one, and one not very good one, and then the rest have been okay, maybe not so great, but still pretty good to amazing. So yeah, I'm going to be missing the Philip Hinchcliffe here. He didn't even have 3 whole seasons, because Barry Letts produced the first episode of season 12, just like how Derek Sherwin produced the first story of season 7, as well as the last story of season 6. Yeah, poor guy, he only got 2 stories. That's even less than John Watts. I think, yeah, John Watts only did a few stories on season 3, but I think he did more than Sherwin. Poor guy. But anyway, but yeah, goodbye Philip Hinchcliffe. You gave us a great 3-season run, and he leaves on a extremely great note. The Talons of Weng-Chiang, another Robert Holmes stories. It seems to be Robert Holmes stories that have been the best in this particular season. So, and also some of his stories have been some of the best of the entire era so far. So, Talons of Weng-Chiang. The story involves the Doctor taking Leela to Victorian London to try and show her how her ancestors lived. However, it's also they're in Limehouse, East End area, and there's a lot of Chinese people around. I will say this about this story, and it's something the story has been criticised for. It's the treatment of Chinese people. And yeah, I mean, maybe people at the time of the story being set would have a certain view of Chinese people, but even the Doctor is written to have that type of view in some places, which is a bit harsh. And also, I think most of, if not all of the Chinese characters are played by British people. I think maybe they've got some Chinese people in, but I'm not quite sure. I think it would have been better if, certainly for Chin, I believe it was, Lee Sen Chang. I think certainly for him they should have gotten a Chinese actor, and I'm certain if they did or not. But I think there is a bit of a awkward treatment of Chinese characters in this story, and Chinese actors if they have them in the story. If not, then again that it could have been better if they had gotten Chinese actors in, or Asian actors in at least. So, and the last story dealt with racism as a subcontext in the story. This one, I suppose, deals with it as well, but in a bit more of in a bit of an awkward way, rather than a comparison way. So yeah, that's really my main gripe. There's also, I just remembered this. There's this really weird Cockney woman in the part 1 who is just there, I think, to try and have some humour for some reason. Yeah, I just remembered that bit, and yeah, and the giant rat does look pretty unconvincing. I don't know if that was actually needed for the story. Okay, maybe, yeah, it was, but it wasn't quite that effective. Maybe it would have been better if it was never revealed. So if it was just some clever lighting, that would have been great. But besides that, we've got some really great stuff in the story. The whole mystery is actually really well done. The reveals actually are handled really well, and got some great character moments. And I even like how it ties in sci-fi with this Chinese cult, plus a bit of magic in as well with Chang's talents. It's all really great, and that's some great stuff. Plus make it a sort of a mystery style story, and some good old-fashioned British adventure. You've got a really cracking story here. I also really like the Doctor's Sherlock Holmes outfit. I think it actually works on Tom Baker better than Matt Smith's one in The Snowmen, where he actually was trying to pretend to be Sherlock Holmes. And Tom Baker is once again excellent in this role, has some great moments, and it's really great. And also, it looks really cool with that elephant gun shooting the big rat. And yeah, he just has some great moments. Notification. Leela's also really great in the story as well. More of what we've had before, but also with characters trying to show her how to be a lady, if you will. Does she want 1 lump or 2 lumps of sugar? Well, Professor, if she's only supposed to have 1, don't bother asking her. Yeah, I'm with Leela on that bit at the end of the story where ladies are supposed to only have 1. So what's the point in asking them? Why don't you just ask, would you like some sugar? Yeah, I expect that's something that Victorian values did have, but I am with Leela on that bit. Yeah, and tea is supposedly not complicated, the Doctor says. Ha! Anyway, but Leela is great, both on her vicious warrior angle, like when she blows up Janus form to kill one of the Chinese people to protect the Doctor, and also is really great as sort of investigating around, like following Chiang everywhere. She does have to be rescued by the Doctor at least once, with that bit where he shoots the rat. But I think that's the only instance, and also when she gets captured by Greel in the house towards the end, and the Doctor has to bargain for her life. But again, once that's out of the way, she gets to help get rid of Greel, and yeah, so she's not really that typical companion. I mean, she does get into some of those fixes, but she's proving to be a very strong and capable character, and I'm really liking this new angle on her. Something we haven't really done before. I mean, Sarah Jane tried, bless her, but not as effectively. Look at Revenge of the Cybermen for a very good example, I pointed out, of it not working. A very Joe moment, as I put it. And Joe did a very similar thing. So, well, or had done similar things. So I'm actually liking the new angle they took with Leela in this one. I also like how Chiang is a pretty good villain, in a way, as is Magnus Greel, aka Weng-Chiang, as they call him. All these, that's what they think he is. He's their god, who their Talon, their group, call him. Hence the Talons of Weng-Chiang. And yeah, they think Magnus Greel is that guy, so they worship him and they work for him. And Magnus Greel turns out to be a guy from the future who was in charge of justice and had some really nasty punishments, and eventually became a criminal and used some time experiments and accidentally headed back in time. Also, fun fact, in part 2, I believe, of this story, they mentioned the time agency for the first time. Or, well, they say a time agent would know. So Robert Holmes inadvertently created the time agency. It wouldn't be until about 28 years later until another talented writer, who's also done a few duds, also wrote a story which introduced a time agent known as Captain Jack Harkness. Yeah, that's right. Stephen Moffat pretty much took this idea and created the time agency from it, or at least Captain Jack, and then the writers of Torchwood then took that idea and ran with that. So Stephen Moffat and the Torchwood writers would pick up where Robert Holmes left off with that idea. So anyway, more so with the Torchwood writers, and to be honest, Harkness was a character created by Russell T Davies. But Stephen Moffat wrote the story he was introduced in, so I'm including him. I also like the way he's performed. He's a bit over the top, but he's still really great. And he actually reminds me of Omega in quite a few places. Well, with Stephen Thorne now sadly passed away, we need someone to fill that void. May as well be this guy. And yeah, he's pretty great. And when they reveal the mask, oh, that is a nice makeup job. It's a pretty grotesque face. They probably could only do it for that one time, but it looks really good. Is it makeup or would it be a mask? Either way, it looks great, and it makes a lot of sense for the character to do that. I do have one gripe about the character though, because he needs to have all the energies from the girls from this machine he has. That is eventually what his downfall is. He needs that energy. But in part 2, when he's in the theatre and the Doctor and Jago are there, he's swinging across the theatre. He's running away down. He looks like he's a very energetic villain in that case. But every other time we see him, he's somewhere between tired and almost dead. So, and he didn't have the energy from the girl earlier that day. Maybe the day before, very early in the day, but not just before that bit. They were even talking about getting more girls the next day. So how did he have the energy to have a bit of a chase scene? Also, in that episode 2, they mentioned Chiang mentions he can get 2 girls for Grill, but then in part 3, he then mentions it would be more difficult when Grill requests it. So what changed? Is it the timing? Is it the fact that more people are noticing the girls? Because the girls aren't missed. They're missing, but people have noticed they're going missing. But why is Chiang saying that it's now more difficult to get them? Is it because it wasn't tomorrow yet? Was it still that same night? Because otherwise, then that bit in part 2 should have been written out or cut. So I don't know. But speaking of supporting characters, Jago and Lightfoot. Wow, we have 2 of the greatest supporting characters in the show. I can totally see why Big Finish created a spin-off series for these guys, and I expect a lot of people have fallen in love with those characters through that series. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they fell in love with the characters through this story, and they are great characters, and the actors do an amazing job. Mr. Jago owns the Palace Theatre, where one of the bases is being set, and he's played by Christopher Benjamin, who previously appeared in Inferno as another character, a more likeable character, but Jago here is still really likeable, and Benjamin plays him really great. He's a bit like an old British colonel or something in an army, but when it comes down to it, he's not terribly brave, but he will still do what is right. He is a bit pompous in places, especially early on, but he's still a really great character, and I can generally buy his friendship with Lightfoot in just a few scenes in this story, which helps Big Finish out when they want to do their spin-off series. I think it started in 2010. It's about just over 30 years later. So that was great. And Trevor Baxendale as Professor Lightfoot, also rest in peace. That's why they're not doing any more of Jago and Lightfoot's. Well, they did 14 series, so that's good, right? And a crossover with Strax from the new series. That's great. I hope. I'm not sure. Was Jago and Lightfoot series 14 or was that series 15? I'm not sure. Was that a special and they did 13 series and then that wrapped up? Big Finish fans, if you could just let us know, then that'd be great. Thanks. But Trevor Baxendale is great as Professor Lightfoot, and he's again got some great scenes with Jago, and both had great scenes with the Doctor and Leela. There's even a great scene where Lightfoot decides to eat like Leela and then teaches her how to wipe her mouth on a napkin instead of using a tablecloth. So it's nice how the two of them are getting along. It is him who's talking to Leela about that tea bit at the end, and yeah, like I said, doesn't quite make that much sense. If she's not supposed to have more than one bit of sugar, just ask her if she wants sugar or not. Again, like I said, it could have been a Victorian thing, but it could even have not worried being in the script in the first place. And like I said, the chemistry between the two characters is just amazing. I love the chemistry with them in the Doctor and Leela, but when they're together, that was really great. Again, setting up that Big Finish series. So that was really good. And alongside this, you do have some nice horror and murder mystery style, but it's not done overblown. I mean, it's not terribly violent, it's not too bad, but it does look like it is a bit. There are some gruesome bits, there are some bloody bits. Oh, and Deep Roy as Mr. Sin. Inspired. Yes, there's a great little backstory about that character as well. That's done really well as well. And Roy plays him really well. Earlier on, when he's talking, he sounds a bit like a child, and then later on, they explain that he has a bit of organic pig stuff inside of him, which makes sense for him when he's snorting like a pig quite a lot, especially once that reveal has been mentioned. He is snorting like a pig. He's not hiding it, and yeah, he's also part robotic, I think, with that pig organ thing or pig and organic flesh bit. And then the pig thing took over him, and yeah, you're gonna have to get used to that. Notifications popping up and me wiping away the screen, like what with Ollie Pagex has to do with his reviews. But as I was saying, the organic bit took over his mind, and he got a hatred of humanity. So Magnus Krill brought him back with him, and now he's basically a servant, and he looks really great. And I like how they dressed him up to be like a little Chinese puppet guy that Chiang can use in some performances. I guess Chiang performing in the Palace Theatre was a way for them to hide out in the theatre for a bit like how the Chinese guys run the laundry that they also hide out in later on. Then I suppose it's helpful for that. And I also want to mention Casey, the guy who worked at the Palace Theatre. He's a really great guy. He's quite nice. He's a bit dim, but he's still pretty nice and has some great moments. And I was generally sad when he died. When I saw that scene with Magnus Krill back and confronting Casey, I was like, please don't kill Casey. And then Casey's body turned up in Chang's box, and I was like, no! I mean, he wasn't that amazing character, but he was a likeable one. I found myself really liking him. Well, that's a sign of good character writing and good story writing if a character you like is killed off, especially 4 episodes in, I think it was. Yeah, 4 episodes in. So, if you're going to do that, you've got to do that. Make the audience like a character, and then when it's time for them to kill them off, then at least you've got them to like that character, and it makes impact. This is something Chris Chibnall was able to do really well recently that Stephen Moffat couldn't really do that much during his entire tenure. And the sets look really nice as well. And look at that great dragon. Oh, that looks great. And the cabinet, that's a nice little, well, not little, it's a nice way to connect Lightfoot with the main plot about how his family lived in China for a bit. It was a gift from an emperor, and it was taken by soldiers from that emperor, and then it became a gift. It all ties in really nicely and really well, and I like how it all weaves itself together. So yeah, Talons of Weng-Chiang, a really great gothic horror sci-fi mystery adventure with a bit of magic in for good measure. Ticks all the boxes for me. Yeah, I will say this, it does slightly get slowed down in the middle, and I did find myself getting a bit tired around that point. So my recommendation is to take a break between episodes 3 and 4, and then come back to it about 5 or 6 minutes later, 5 to 10 minutes later, and then carry on. And I felt a bit more refreshed then, ready for the second half of the story, and enjoyed it a lot more. So yeah, if you're sitting down watching a long story, especially if it's Master Plan, because my goodness, how could you not have a break during Master Plan? I didn't break up the invasion and the war games when I carried on watching. I at least had a few minutes break between that. So between those. So even then. So yeah. So I would recommend a couple of minutes break between stories if you're getting a bit tired, especially around the middle. So I would do that, especially for the longer ones. 4-parters, it's not so bad. Unless it's a really boring one, or one you keep fidgeting on. But yeah, Talons, I was getting a bit tired towards the end of episode 3. I was still loving the story, but I was getting a bit tired. But a break was able to help me get back into the story when I resumed for part 4, and the rest of the story just was really brilliant for me then. So if you feel that way, take a break for a few minutes and then come back to it afterwards, if necessary, another time. So yeah, I wanted to finish the whole story today, because yesterday when I'm watching it, because I was going to review it today. And so yeah, so that's just a recommendation. It doesn't always apply, it doesn't happen to everybody, but it's just something in case it does happen. So wrapping up this review, this is an amazing story, and it's got some great stuff. It's a little bit long, but I think it actually warrants having 6 episodes, unlike some stories. And it uses the 6-parters effectively. And it's just really brilliant. Some great characters, great set design, some great performances, and it just overall, it's just an amazing story. So I'm going to give the Talons of Weng-Chiang a 10 out of 10. brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. And a brilliant way for Philip Hinchcliffe to end his era on the show. Well done. He started off with an amazing story. He ends on an amazing story. So, yeah, that's the Talons of Weng-Chiang. Next time, we'll be starting off the Graham Williams era. That's right. With another story that would actually have fitted well in Philip Hinchcliffe's era. Horror of Fang Rock. And I say it would have fitted well because it's a bit of a gothic horror. In a way, mixed with some sci-fi. So basically this. And it's also, I think it's set in the past. A little bit later, though. About early 1900s. But yeah, another historical fantasy sci-fi horror. So that works well. And this one is written by Terrence Dicks. So yeah, so next time, Horror of Fang Rock. But before we go, there's one other thing I wanted to mention about Talons of Weng-Chiang. In an issue of Doctor Who magazine where they were talking about, they had a free magazine art, three of the issues talked about Doctor Who come on video and DVD, and maybe very early Blu-ray. I think it was back in 2015, just before the Underwater Menace came out, because they were saying that they planned a release, but it was cancelled, and they showed the cover art, and then lo and behold, the release came out with said cover art. In the first of the 3 articles, they had that there was an article for each of those 3 issues. They were talking about the videos and the early releases of the videos, and the Talons of Weng-Chiang was an early release, and the BBFC wanted 2 scenes cut, a very few couple seconds cut from the story in order for it to receive a PG rating. Otherwise, the story would have been given a 15 certification. And yeah, they didn't feel like it needed to be 15 rated, so if they just had those scenes cut, then some slight edits, then it would be fine. Because certainly by modern standards, it wouldn't be a 15. No way, it wouldn't even be a 12. Of course, back when that video was going to come out, the 12 wasn't even introduced in 1989, and that would only be for cinema until 1994, when it then came to video. So, yeah, but imagine if Talons of Weng-Chiang had been rated 15 on its first VHS release. I'm sure a second video would have come out in the 90s with a reclassification of the certification if that was to happen, and then by that point, it might be a PG by then. I think those edits have been edited back into the story. I might be wrong, but if they have, I'm sure it would still be PG. If not, then maybe a 12 now. I'm sure it's still a PG to this day, generally a PG, and that's the rating I would give it. I don't think it's that bad enough to go to 12. But like I said, imagine if that first VHS had been rated 15. That's something to think about. Yeah, one Doctor Who story that got a 15 rating originally for a little bit, for a few years before lower to 12 and then or PG, or 12 then PG again for DVD or a later DVD release. That would have been fun. But imagine if it was still rated 15 today, and the Revisitation 1 box set would not be a 12 due to the TV movie, it would be a 15 due to this story. But this is just a what if this had happened type of universe. Of course, no Doctor Who story has ever gotten a 15 rating as of 2019. Good or bad thing, this is up for debate. Of course, Torchwood and Class, they've got 15 rated episodes and other video spin-offs, but Doctor Who itself, no, the highest it's gone is 12, starting from the TV movie, and quite a few since then. In the new series, especially in the Capaldi and Whittaker years, not so much in the Eccleston, Tennant and Smith years, but a few. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. It was a fun piece of information that relates to a topic I really love. And yeah, so yeah, that was just something I wanted to talk about. And we're going to have another piece of fun information on Horror Fang Rock about about something that concerns a repeat of that story shown in America in 1987. Yep, anyone who knows about that will probably guess. So hopefully I'll remember to do that. I might even do a funny sketch if I'm feeling up for it. No promises though. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching this review. Apologies if I talked a little bit too long about the VHS and its 15 certification. Well, would have been if it hadn't had those cuts. But that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Next time, after the season 14 ranking, of course. Next time, Horror Fang Rock. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm starting again just in case. Just like how Derek Sherwin produced the last season. She does get caught by the rat at one point, but she manages. But the doctor has to change. She gets kidnapped, or well, it wouldn't be until, what was this, 1977? It wouldn't be until 10, 20, 30, 28 years before another very talented, yet also with some duds, writer. It wouldn't be 10, 20, 30. 10, 7, 87, 97, 07. But Stephen Moffat wrote the story. But Stephen Moffat wrote the story he was introduced in. So I'm saying Stephen Moffat. But Stephen Moffat wrote the story he was introduced in. So I'm saying Stephen Moffat did it as well. But when he's going away from, excuse me, and I have people outside just saying stuff that is distracting me a little bit. And I don't know if you guys can pick this up. That was a blooper. I'm not sure. Big Finish fans, just provide some info. But yeah. So, but Trevor Baxendale does another great. And but as I was saying, well, that's what a good story does. It has to kill off character, and that's what a good character has to do. If that's what you want. This is something Chris Chibnall has done better than Stephen Moffat recently, by the way. Just saying that for any person who hasn't seen Series 11, Chris Chibnall didn't take a... Just saying that in case anyone didn't see Series 11, Chris Chibnall isn't afraid of killing characters that he... Well, one character at least, who the audience got to like over the course of an episode, as opposed to Moffat, who just doesn't kill, or doesn't really... As opposed to Moffat, who doesn't really do that. Or at least not after coming up. I'll just cut the whole bit. Apart from the Chibnall over Moffat bit. And I even like the plot about So on the whole, Talons of Weng-Chiang has some really great stuff, and the sets. You me? I did say the Underwater Menace, didn't I? Well, if I didn't, that's the story. That is the story. But anyway, and otherwise, it would have been given a 15. Someone was distracting me. And even then, that would only be for cinema. I'm sure a re-release would have come out having its certification a re-rated